I'm gonna save you 12 years of your life and millions of dollars in this one video. I first became a millionaire at the age of 23, and now I own and operate a $15 business that I scaled up in just the last 3 years. So today I'm gonna break down exactly how I did it so you can learn from my experiences and get rich a lot faster than I did. But let's start from the beginning. When I was 17 years old, I started my first ever business. It was a direct marketing company where I had a small call center of people who would cold call businesses and establish appointments for business coaching clients that I had. We would then get paid about $300 to $500 per appointment depending on the quality of them. And this allowed me to speak to hundreds of different businesses per day, learning sales and persuasion. And I quickly realized that high ticket industries like importing and wholesaling were more lucrative because this business model required less people and had high sales volume. Speaking to all these business owners, it seemed like they had a lot less operational stress, but they had a lot higher revenue. And now, although my direct marketing business was going well, I wanted to do something bigger, something that I could scale beyond just my effort. And that's when I started my own import wholesale business. So essentially the way it works is that brands would look for distributors to represent their brands in different regions, different markets that they weren't in order to grow their brand in that market. So I started to look for innovative products to bring to Australia that were popular in other parts of the world, but they weren't in Australia yet. And that's when I found Mectivia. It would wirelessly project your PC to your TV and could do multiple PCs at a time. This was like 15 years ago, so there was no Apple TV back then. So the plan was to get the rights to this product and then import it to Australia and sell it to mass retailers. But the reality was I was like 20 years old. I had no experience. How was I going to convince this big brand, this big product to give me the rights for Australia? So what I did, I contacted Mectivia and I said that I was the marketing manager for this big company called Inspire Technology, which was the new company I set up. I convinced him to come to Australia to see our operation. And now when he came to Australia, what I did, I went to my accounting firm, I changed his logos to my logos. I introduced the owner of Mectivia to the whole team as it was my team, right through to, this is our marketing manager, our sales, operations manager. And then later I took him to a third-party warehouse, which was Star Trek in Australia. And I said, this is the warehouse that we use. And long story short, he gave me the rights and that's when the business started. Probably 3 to 4 months later after I got the rights, I got a massive purchase order for about $500,000 from a massive retailer called Harvey Norman in Australia. And that kicked off that first import wholesale business I had called Inspire Technology. So the lesson here is to be relentless. You have to fake it until you make it. No one is going to believe in you unless you believe in yourself first. This is your most important asset that you have at the start. It's that belief in yourself. It's that relentlessness just to make it happen. And others along the way will see it in you and they will back you. Now, after building my importing business, I realized that I had a major problem. I was selling other people's products. The major retailers will squeeze the margins out of you because they knew they had you. They knew they had the leverage over you. They know that you needed them more than they needed you. So I started seeing that what's so special about these other brands that I couldn't do. So then I learned a very important lesson. The world was created by people that are no smarter than you. So I started developing my own brands because the proprietary brand gives you a lot of leverage. You have your name, you have your products, intellectual property, exclusive maybe formulations or designs or technologies that can differentiate you from your competitors. If there's one thing I learned over the last 17 years is that brand is everything. You should go all in on owning your own brand. And now with this new understanding of how proprietary brands work, I created Juice Up. It was my first brand in power banks. I designed it and capitalized on a growing market. I went to China and I started inquiring to work with factories developing these battery packs. So the concept was very simple. I just wanted a small product, portable design that worked with all phones. And in order to execute the strategy, what I did, I actually liked one of the workers from the factories and I took him to work for me personally. And that was a game changer, which I'd highly recommend anyone going to China. So then I went to market. I was able to do a deal with a mass retailer. Well, I gave them huge margins because I couldn't act, so I had my own brand and a very aggressive price point in the market. And I told them, only pay me once you sold it in stores. Now at that point, I thought I had the perfect product, but then all of a sudden, one mistake almost destroyed my whole business. So Big W was the retailer in Australia that took the chance and ordered 10,000 units off the bat. And within the first month, we literally sold through almost all of it. It was a massive hit. And the buyer immediately said to me, I want another 100,000 units, especially going to Christmas, this is gonna kill it. After months of selling through maybe 40 or 50,000 power banks, I got a phone call and it was the retailer. He said, Matt, we have an issue. A customer dropped the power bank, it started fizzling and almost catching on fire, and they returned it to us. But the issue is the battery inside of it was uncertified based on reports you gave me. And what I found out later is that out of the 100,000 units I ordered, the factory was 5,000 units short on the certified battery that we required. And they put in an uncertified battery. The one the guy dropped was part of the 5,000 that wasn't certified. And now what happens is the national recall. You're on the news, there's a big announcement saying if anyone's bought this product, you must return it or dispose of it immediately. Name has been kind of shamed to some degree. But the lesson here is to make sure that you have quality control and you're very detail oriented in terms of your supplier's trust. And you can do everything so well, then one moment can literally break your brand overnight. Now after Juice Up, I saw another huge opportunity. Headphones were booming, beats were everywhere, and I had to find a way to break through this market. But from a marketing perspective, I didn't have what Beats had in terms of their budget. I couldn't get the celebrities they had, but I did find two ways to actually cut through. I took my headphone brand to Sony Music in Australia, and they were the biggest at the time, and all the different artists. And I did a deal with them to give them 10% of all sales of my headphone brands, and their artists all had to be ambassadors of the products, have it in their music video clips, and then when they did their single launches inside of shopping centers, they had to do it in the retailer that I chose to partner with. Now this deal was extremely lucrative and appealing deal to a retailer, because not only was I having Australia's biggest stars representing the brand, I was able to give an exclusivity package to them where they could hold their margin. I could bring people to their stores by when these singers had their single launches, we would bring an audience to the retail stores, which was outside of their potential demographic. And this is how I won against all the other companies that had been in this industry for like 10, 20, 30 years. Because at the time I understood one thing: having a piece of a watermelon is better than having a whole grape. And the best founders in the world understand this. Whether it's Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, they only own a small percentage of their companies to date, because they understand the power of bringing on super talented people or strategic partners to scale their businesses quicker. So from that point, business was thriving. My brands had scaled up to multiple eight figures of revenue throughout retailers, we're in thousands of stores. But then one day I woke up and my biggest retailer, Dick Smith, was a $1 billion retailer, went bankrupt overnight. And I lost about $5 million, and I was about 25 years old. I remember the day it happened. I found out before it was on the news, before everyone else knew about it, and I was taking a walk in the park, and all of a sudden this victim mentality started appearing, why me? How can this happen? I've been building this business 7 years, I sacrificed so much. But then I quickly learned a very important lesson. You can't control what you look at, but you can control what you see. What I started to do was trying to find narratives and stories to control what I can actually see. What other business owners had massive failures or massive losses, they ended up being super successful. Example, Donald Trump went bankrupt multiple times. Look where he is now, he's the president of the United States of America again. At that moment where I should have been the most down, I was the most positive. And thank God that it happened when I was 25 years old, not 35 years old with a family. The next lesson that I learned was about concentration risk. I put a lot of my eggs in that one basket, that one retailer. And then when that one retailer went down, I almost lost my business and lost a lot of my money overnight. So concentration risk is real. When you're growing a business, make sure you're growing it via multiple acquisition channels or multiple streams of income. Because when one goes down, you don't want your whole business to be vulnerable, and then your whole business goes down. So soon enough, I came across another opportunity. Hoverboards. They were blowing up, literally and figuratively.
The summer's hottest product on wheels.
We've got queues of people waiting, and I'm not joking, 73-year-old man was on it the other day.
I built the biggest hoverboard brand in Australia. We did $2 million in 3 months, but I knew it wouldn't last. So I took my previous lesson with the recall that I had in the power banks and created the most safest advanced hoverboards in the market. We also priced ourselves more than the rest of our competition, because there's no advantage in being in the middle of the market. You're either the cheapest or you're the most expensive. And we went to be the most expensive because of our design and our innovation. But the problem with that business was that it was a fad. Trends are lucrative, but they're short-lived. Build long-term brands that you can spend the same amount of time on building another brand that will last for 10, 20, 30 years instead of chasing trends. So then your efforts compound over a long period of time. The real wealth is built in that compounded interest and compounded value that you build on year. And if you have to start in a new opportunity vehicle every 3 to 4 years, then you lose a lot of the hard work that you've done. Now later on, I decided to start another company called Football Supplements, and I invested $2 million. I had the top athletes in the world, what I thought was the best product, but it still failed. Now I went out to build the best brand possible. I had Atletico Madrid as the team sponsor, I had Real Madrid players, Barcelona's players, but it all just flopped. The truth is, the market never lies. There wasn't product market fit. The players didn't care about the nutrition as much as I initially thought. And there was only a really small subsection of the market that actually cared about nutrition and what they put into their body. What I should have done instead, test one product, did it like an MVP before going all in, and before making a whole product lineup and sponsoring a whole team. So that's the lesson here. Make sure you test the market before you go all in. So one day though, I had a thought. How can I make clinical skincare affordable for everyone? That's how my brand Qure Skincare was born, which eventually scaled up to $50 million in under 3 years. So my sister was helping me run a couple of brands that I had, and the goal was to always build a skincare brand for her because she's obsessed with skincare. And I think one lesson that I learned was that there's authentic money creation and then there's inauthentic money creation. When you create money inauthentically, you're selling things you don't care about, and there's no meaning attached to the money that you're actually making. If you can create money in an authentic way that actually means something to you, it just feels a lot better. Now my sister was sending me all these different skincare products when I lived in Croatia and she was in Australia. She's telling me, post-it notes, use this in the morning, use this at night, and as a guy I didn't use any of that stuff. But she got to Croatia and said, your skin's looking a lot better. And I brought her into my room and I showed her this massive LED panel. And that's when she's like, oh my God, I want one, this is amazing. But her heart sunk when I told her it cost $5,000. So it was at that moment where we thought that we can redefine this product to be for the face and make it accessible to everyone. At the time, we also thought we were the first ones to think of that. Obviously, the mask was not flooded, but had a lot of different masks on the market. But we went to go innovate on this product because I knew the technology worked. I knew it was a trending market. And my advice to you guys watching is that find underserved markets with like real demand, product categories that are trending, and innovate on the product to make it different to everyone else's. Then you can capture the demand by being different and better than everyone else's. It's the easiest way to scale your business. Now, as long as I scaled the brand up quickly, I had to manage the risks that would come by doing so and grow the business in like a sustainable way. So what I had to do is keep the business growing slower with a higher profit margin. And that's the key, because you want to have profit in the business to invest into making better products and better people. The mistake I see a lot of business owners make is chasing revenue. They run on such small, thin margins, which then results in them just to invest into more stock to keep up with the demand. They just play this game of revenue when then they don't actually get better. They just sell more stuff. Make sure in the early days that you can run the business at least 15 to 20% net profit margins. Then reinvest these profits into making the product better and then investing into getting better people into your business. You want to continue to develop and fine-tune your product to be the best in the market. And this is the highest leverage move that you can make. This is how I created Qure and how we got to $50 million in just under 3 years. Now, if you like this video, check out how I reset my brain to make $50 million. Click the link below.